one gunshot. That's all it took to change America forever. November 22nd, 1963. A day etched into the collective memory of a nation. A day that began with bright skies and cheering crowds in Dallas, Texas. President John F. Kennedy, young, charismatic, and the face of a new generation, rode through Dealey Plaza in an open-top limousine alongside his wife Jacqueline. The air was electric with excitement. People lined the streets, waving, smiling, eager to catch a glimpse of their president. For a fleeting moment, it was a picture of American optimism, a scene of hope and promise. Then, in a matter of seconds, that picture shattered. The sound of a rifle shot echoed through the plaza, followed by another, and then another. Chaos erupted. The cheers turned to screams. The presidential motorcade sped away, racing towards Parkland Memorial Hospital, but it was too late. The dream of a new Camelot died on that Dallas street. The world watched in stunned disbelief as the news spread. President Kennedy was dead. The assassination plunged the nation into a state of profound shock and grief. It was a national trauma, a wound that, for many, has never fully healed. In the immediate aftermath, a suspect was apprehended. Lee Harvey Oswald, former Marine with a troubled past and connections to both the Soviet Union and Cuba. The official investigation, known as the Warren Commission, concluded just 10 months later that Oswald acted alone, firing 3 shots from the 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository. They presented a seemingly straightforward case. Oswald was the lone gunman. The case was closed. But was it really that simple? Was Lee Harvey Oswald truly acting alone? For over 60 years, that question has refused to go away. It lingers in the shadows of the official report, fueled by inconsistencies, unanswered questions, and a deep-seated public distrust that began to fester almost immediately. Let's start with the so-called magic bullet, the Warren Commission's explanation for how a single bullet, Commission Exhibit 399, could cause 7 separate wounds in both President Kennedy and Governor John Connally, who was sitting in front of him, has been a major point of contention. The bullet is said to have entered Kennedy's back, exited his throat, then struck Connally, shattering a rib, exiting his chest, hitting his wrist, and finally lodging in his thigh. Critics argue that the trajectory required for this is physically impossible. The bullet itself was found on a stretcher at the hospital in near pristine condition, barely deformed, which seems highly improbable after causing such extensive damage. A single piece of evidence has spawned countless debates and analyses, with many believing it's the smoking gun that proves a conspiracy. Then there's the Zapruder film. This silent, 26-second home movie, captured by Abraham Zapruder, is the most complete visual record of the assassination. When you watch it, especially the fatal headshot, President Kennedy's head appears to move backward and to the left. This motion has led many to believe that the shot must have come from the front, perhaps from the infamous Grassy Knoll area of Dealey Plaza, not from the book depository behind him. The Warren Commission explained this as a neuromuscular reaction. But for many observers, the visual evidence is simply too compelling to ignore. Eyewitness testimony from Dealey Plaza that day is also incredibly contradictory. While some witnesses reported hearing shots from the book depository, a significant number, over 50, in fact claimed they heard shots coming from the Grassy Knoll. Some even saw a puff of smoke in that area. These accounts were largely dismissed by the official investigation, but they've provided fertile ground for alternative theories for decades. And what about Lee Harvey Oswald himself? He was a complex and enigmatic figure. He publicly denied his guilt, famously telling reporters, "I'm just a patsy." Just 2 days after his arrest, before he could ever stand trial, Oswald was murdered on live television by a nightclub owner named Jack Ruby. The timing was, to say the least, incredibly convenient for anyone who might have wanted to silence him. Why would Jack Ruby, a man with known ties to organized crime, kill the president's alleged assassin? Ruby claimed he was overcome with grief and patriotism, but that explanation has never sat well with researchers. Was he ordered to eliminate Oswald to prevent a wider conspiracy from being exposed? Oswald's own background adds more layers to the mystery. His time in the Soviet Union, his pro-Castro activities in New Orleans, it all paints a picture of a man involved in the shadowy world of Cold War espionage. Was he a lone disgruntled Marxist, or was he a pawn in a much larger game, manipulated by forces he didn't understand? The list of potential conspirators is long and varied. Some theories point to the mafia, angry at the Kennedy administration's crackdown on organized crime. Others suggest anti-Castro Cuban exiles who felt betrayed by Kennedy after the failed Bay of Pigs invasion. Even the CIA and the military-industrial complex have been implicated, some believing they saw Kennedy's moves toward de-escalating the Cold War as a threat. One of the most significant official re-examinations came in the 1970s. The House Select Committee on Assassinations conducted its own investigation and came to a startling conclusion. While they agreed that Oswald fired the shots that killed Kennedy, they also concluded, based on acoustic evidence from a police radio recording, that there was a high probability of a second gunman who also fired at the motorcade. They declared that President Kennedy was likely assassinated as a result of a conspiracy. However, they couldn't definitively identify the other gunman or the scope of the conspiracy. This official government report directly contradicted the Warren Commission and gave immense credibility to the idea that the official story wasn't the whole story. Over the years, thousands of government documents related to the assassination have been declassified, but many remain redacted or withheld entirely, citing national security concerns. This lack of full transparency has only fueled more suspicion. What could possibly still be a threat to national security after all this time? The persistent secrecy leads many to believe that there's something damning in those files. Something the government still doesn't want the public to know. New evidence and theories continue to emerge even today. Modern forensic analysis and digital reconstructions of the Zapruder film offer new perspectives. Researchers pore over declassified documents, connecting dots, and finding new leads. Books, documentaries, and podcasts relentlessly dissect every piece of evidence, every witness statement, every possible motive. The assassination of John F. Kennedy wasn't just the death of a president. It was the death of a certain kind of American innocence. It marked a turning point, ushering in an era of cynicism and distrust in government that persists to this day. The event has become a modern myth, a puzzle with missing pieces that we are compelled to keep trying to solve. Perhaps we will never have a definitive answer. Perhaps the full truth of what happened in Dealey Plaza on November 22, 1963, is lost to history, buried with the men who orchestrated it. But the search for that truth continues. The questions remain because they are important. They force us to critically examine power, secrecy, and the official narratives we are given. Some questions in history are never fully answered, but they must never stop being asked. The story of that fateful day in Dallas is a stark reminder that a single moment can echo through generations, leaving behind a legacy of doubt and a relentless quest for clarity. Thanks for watching. If you find history's unsolved mysteries as fascinating as I do, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the stories that shaped our world. Let me know in the comments what you think. Was Oswald a lone wolf, or was there a larger conspiracy at play? See you next time.